Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to the grand final of the Speedchess Championship in 2024 that you can follow now live on chess.com. We have here the epic battle between Magnus Carlsen against Alireza Firouzja. This is the match that we have been really waiting for. When we watch now the whole Speedchess Championship, I think we have a deserved final. These two guys were the best players in the event so far. Magnus Carlsen destroyed Nh5 in the semifinals, and also Alireza Firouzja outplayed with a clear result Hikaru Nakamura. We're diving now into this epic final. We are starting now with the round 3. Actually, one game was already won by Magnus Carlsen. This is now the game 3 in which again Magnus Carlsen played with the white pieces. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to reveal you also the current standings of this epic match between Alireza Firouzja and Hikaru Nakamura. Also, what I have to mention, a very cool thing happened in the live stream. Hans Nh5 actually joined the live stream, and actually what's the craziest part was that Hans Nh5 gave a handshake to Levi Rosman. So I hope really that Levi and Hans Nh5 can become really friends. I hope the drama is over and we can really enjoy Justin Chess in the Speedchess Championship in 2024. So let's dive now into this game where again Magnus Carlsen played with the white pieces and had a huge chance maybe to take a 2-point lead against Alireza Firouzja. With the white pieces, Magnus opened with move d4. Alireza's response was knight to f6, c4, g6, knight to c3, and after bishop to g7, e4, and d6, we have now the King's Indian defense on the board. And this is really epic. Alireza Firouzja is not scared to play a sharp opening against Magnus Carlsen. Also against Hikaru Nakamura, he pulled off very often the King's Indian defense. Maybe in a classical time format game, I'm not sure if Alireza would have dared to play the King's Indian, but in this faster time formats, of course, he's not intimidated by maybe some attacks by Magnus Carlsen. He's trying to do his chess. He's trying to do, of course, sharp tactical chess. From move d6, knight to f3, Carlsen here by Alireza Firouzja, bishop to e2, and now the common King's Indian move with the move e5, Carlsen by Magnus, and now an interesting and rare sideline with the move h6, which is basically preventing bishop to e3. Then you can also jump with the knight on g4 here. In some lines, this h6 move is very effective. You can try maybe knight to h7, and then you have a clear open situation, maybe with the move knight to with the move f5, and then you follow with knight to f6. Then you can maybe jump to the square g5 from the square. So very flexible line, I think, here from Black's perspective. Magnus continues with the move queen to c2, which is again a rare sideline after move h6. Maybe not, I would say, the optimal way here to proceed. Magnus actually disconnects now the queen from the defense of the pawn on d4. The queen is not cementing the position around the square d4 further, which could be actually very vulnerable in the next couple of moves. So that's why Alireza continues with the pressure. Knight to c6. We have now the move d5, and now Alireza plays now the move knight to d4. So I think Black has equalized the game already because Magnus simply left now the attack of the d4 square. He has some tactical issues already now in the early stage of the game. Here Magnus has to retreat now, and it seemed to me that Magnus is out of line already. He lost a couple of tempi simply with this queen. Alireza continues with the beautiful rook to e8. The issue is that you cannot take here, although maybe you can go for the d4 pawn. Of course, you don't want to take with the queen, then you run into some tactic like knight to e4. The queen gets attacked, knight takes c3 will happen, bishop is loose on the e file, so too many tactical problems. You could maybe try here to play knight to b5, but then Black will simply continue with c5. You're trying to do en passant. Maybe you pick up now maybe this pawn, but now also knight takes e4 will actually happen. And look at this, Black has enormous pressure, all of the pieces almost on optimal squares. Knight to c6 is not an option here because of queen to b6 simply traps the knight. So great play so far by Alireza. He notices, of course, that he can stay longer with the knight on d4. We have bishop to e3, and now Magnus here Alireza plays knight to e2, simply gives up now his powerful knight, but he gives it now for the light square bishop. He continues now the game with the bishop pair, which is, I think, a strategic advantage. From this point on, I think Black is slightly better, and that's exactly what the King's Indian defense player wants to get. A light square bishop still on the board, where you can push, of course, f5, f4, and then you continue the pressure on this side of the board. Knight to h5 here by Alireza. He wants to cement also the knight on f4. We have knight to e1, knight to f4, bishop to f4, again would be very risky, because then you liberate another beast, then you liberate also this other bishop, and in such a open battle, I think black should be much better. You can maybe try to hold this position. You're trying, of course, to keep the queen connected to the knight, but then we'll simply give it up, and then the e4 pawn could be also vulnerable. Even if you try here something like queen to c2 instead of queen to d2, still a similar tactic I think would happen. Then after something like b takes c3, okay, you're maybe protecting now the pawn, but now f5, bishop to f5, I think again the position is splashed here for white. So after knight to f4, that's why queen to d2 here by Magnus, putting more pressure against his knight, and now f4, f5 here by Alireza, simply opening the center, and that's exactly how you play with the bishop pair. f3, Magnus connects now this pawns in the center. g5, we have c5, and now a good defensive move, I would say, here on the queen side by Alireza Firouzja. b6, forcing basically now a reaction by white, because even if you try something like c6, then again the attack on the queen side, the splash, black doesn't have to worry so much about this side of the board and can actually continue with the pressure on this side of the board. So that's why Magnus took c takes d6, c takes d6, and now rook to c1. Another, I would say, not good move here by Magnus Carlsen. He should have simply somehow go maybe for the c6 square. That's now the target. Maybe with knight to c2, then you're trying knight to b4, knight to c6, and then maybe even, I don't know, b4, b5, and knight to b4, and then knight to c6. At least you're battling on light squares. At least you have some attacking chances on this side of the board. Rook to c1 is a little bit too slow, because here after f takes e4, that I think correctly Alireza Firouzja played, the issue is that you cannot take with the knight. You would love to have your knight here, but then this one is very weak. Bishop to b7, and this one is of course an object now by black's attack through the whole game. I'm not seeing good ways how you're going to defend. You can play maybe knight to c3 again, but there are always some opportunities maybe to play e4, not immediately, but then liberate here the dark square diagonal for the bishop. So it becomes suddenly a one-way ticket, I would say, in Alireza's favor. Very hard to play now for Magnus Carlsen. So here after f takes e4, that's why Magnus took f takes e4. He keeps now at least the position locked, blocked out. He's trying, of course, not to let these bishops into the game. Bishop to a6, great move by Alireza, continuing the attacking flow. Rook to f2, disconnects now both of these rooks. Usually you want to have your rooks connected, and Alireza sensed some tactical issues. He's saying, okay, maybe there's not such a dangerous position already, but if something clears on the c file, actually white could be vulnerable here. So the queen is of course not well placed, bishop on e3 not so well placed, knight on c3, very bad position, I would say, for Magnus Carlsen. b4, he's trying of course to somehow lock this light square bishop out, but now Alireza plays queen to d7, anticipates of course the possibility of b5. a4, bishop to c4. Again, Alireza is not allowing this bishop to be locked out, because he has this, I would like to call it this King's Indian bishop. Usually you don't give up in the King's Indian defense your light square bishop. Your light square bishop has to be really the most powerful piece on the board. Magnus continues the pressure, rook to c7, knight to d1, and you see now suddenly Magnus is, I think, losing the battle on the c file, because Alireza provoked with bishop to a6 this rook lift on f2, and Magnus has really now a tough time to defend the c file. Knight to b2 by Magnus. We have queen to g4, already threatening knight to h3 stuff, so that's why Magnus is pretty much forced to play king to h1. But also bishop to f4 is an opportunity here. For instance, the engine likes more bishop to f4, but again, I think you're inviting simply this beast into the game. I think after a couple more moves you also would face then the power of this other bishop, of this beautiful King's Indian bishop. So very hard, as I said, to play. Magnus played king to h1, knight to h5, with some threats of maybe even queen to h4, and then knight to g3 is also a very dangerous check. So from this point on, Alireza can play whatever he wants to. He has a perfect position. We have now a5. Magnus is trying to do something here. We have bishop to b5. Now rook takes c7, rook takes c7. With this tactical sequence, at least Magnus is saying, okay, I'm solving now my problems on the c file, and can of course take also a takes b6. But now after a takes b6, Magnus played now queen to b4. Good move. Magnus is at least battling now. He's at least attacking somehow the position, but now queen to d7 here by Alireza, connecting again the queen to the bishop. And now Magnus makes his first, I would say, very important mistake in the game. He plays now bishop to b6. And this is not good because this pawn on b6 is weak anyway, so you will get it, but you don't have to take it immediately. A better choice is again to compete on the c file, the line that we have talked about. Magnus Carlsen lost in the beginning. You have to really be careful on the c file, because in one of these lines maybe the rook could come on the second, maybe on the first rank, and then the position gets very, very dangerous. So now after something like rook to c2, knight to c2, you're still down a pawn, but actually it's very hard now for Alireza to defend this pawn, because you cannot play here queen to c7, then you pick up this one. Of course also white can pick up this one, but I think then later bishop to b6 and then bishop to g1, if you are endangered on the back rank, could be working. And black has also tough time with potential ideas with queen to e8 and then maybe getting the knight. So very, very, as I said, hard also to calculate then position for black. But after bishop to b6 that Magnus Carlsen played, Alireza, as we said, occupies now the first rank. You see how important it was to play bishop to a6, this threat against the rook. Now Magnus is pretty much forced to play passive moves. Bishop to e3, rook to b1. Alireza pins now the knight to the queen. Very, very intense battle. We have rook to c2, knight to f6, which was not a good choice now by Alireza Firouzja. Not a good move. He suddenly allowed, I think, a little bit here Magnus to get back into the game. A better choice was simply to play queen to f7, and then after something like bishop to f2, because there was always the threat of queen to f1, you have to play bishop to f2, then bishop to d3. Look at this. This would be epic. You're not allowing knight takes d3 because of this pin. You're not also can play with this other knight on d3. Again, a very, very spectacular position then to play here for both sides. So really, this was a huge chance now for Alireza Firouzja. Queen to f7, and I think white is running out of moves. But he played knight to f6, locked out now the f-file. Magnus is still battling with rook to c1. Only moves, I would say now, because he has to get rid of this very unpleasant rook on the first rank. Rook takes c1, bishop to c1, and now bishop to e2. Okay. With these moves, Alireza is saying, okay, I made maybe a mistake with knight to f6, but I have a different idea now in mind. Alireza is simply going now for the weak e4 pawn. At least something out of this really great tactical battle. He's going at least for a strategic advantage. He wants to get the pawn and wants, of course, to reach the fully endgame stage. Magnus is battling. Now comes this idea, queen to g4. Maybe with the bishop, you can also reroute and attack. Alireza, first of all, gives up now his very important pawn on d6, but now he recaptures it, and now there's simply no good way anymore to defend now the d5 pawn. We have now bishop to g1. Alireza grabs a pawn. Alireza has the bishop pair, has an extra pawn. Of course, a much, much better endgame here for black. Queen to c6, king to h7, and now queen to c2. With this moves, Magnus is basically helping Alireza out, I would say here, to reach the fully endgame stage, because when the queens are on the board, at least you can complicate things. At least maybe you can make a dangerous check, or maybe a double check, a double attack. You can at least, I don't know, try to force a reaction by your opponent. When the queens are off the board, this is not good. Maybe here creating some breathing spaces, keeping the tension on this diagonal so the knight cannot move, so at least you're trying to do something. Here after move h3, and that Magnus Carlsen should have played, probably knight to f6 would have happened, and then maybe in this line you can try to go behind this pawn, at least holding the position. I'm not sure, but obviously still it's a better position for black. But after queen to c2, I think it's rushed here by Magnus. After queen to c2, knight takes c2, here Alireza goes further with the king, knight to f4, knight to a4, and now Alireza simply pushes the pawn further, knight to c5, bishop to d3, g3 here by Magnus Carlsen, attacking the knight, knight to e2, and now Magnus again, I would say, simplifies the game too much here for Alireza Firouzja. Again, maybe keeping more pieces on the board would have been better, and even if, I don't know, you have to maybe give up a piece for a pawn in the later stage of the endgame, maybe you can, I don't know, squeeze a draw in a potential, I would say maybe 2 minor piece versus 3 minor piece endgame with the same pawn. So now again, I think Magnus simplifies the game too much here for Alireza Firouzja. Alireza simply trade off more pieces. Knight to b2 pushes the pawn further, and now d1, Magnus is forced now to give up the piece here, and obviously this is now completely winning endgame. Actually, what happened after a couple more moves here when Alireza pushed the pawn, maybe again not the optimal move, but still it's a winning endgame here. After king to h5, h3, knight to g6, bishop to e3, king to h4, Alireza is getting closer, and now Magnus plays a tricky king to e4, tries of course to play king to f5, trapping one of these pieces, but now Alireza plays knight to e7, and actually what happened in this particular position, Magnus ran out of time, so Magnus lost the game on time control. So deserved win now by Alireza Firouzja. Let's check out now the current standings as I'm recording this video. The result is, let me check it out, 2.5 points for both sides, so both players won some games, so far it's a dynamic battle with good chances, I would say, for both sides. Alireza, you see in this match, plays very sharp tactical chess. He's not playing, I think, boring openings. He's risking with the kings in the defense with the black pieces, and you see also Magnus makes mistakes in this types of positions. So okay, this is it for me today. I will go to work my night shift, and then I'll start to record again some videos in the morning. I will follow, of course, this beautiful Speed Chess Championship final between Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja. I think it will be an epic battle for sure. So if you want to see some other games that we have covered here on my YouTube chess channel, check out my coverage. Here are some games that we have analyzed before, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.